Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome, guys. I want to see down below, how are we all feeling today? How are we doing? Who's hyped? Who's excited for today's webinar? Everyone feeling good? I know a lot of you guys that are in year 6 right now are probably very nervous, okay? Because I know selective is very, very, very soon. So comment down below if you're feeling a little bit nervous. You're like, oh my goodness, it's so soon. I'm a little scared. Well, don't worry, okay? Today we're going to go through pretty much everything you need to know for thinking skills. We are actually going to be looking at past papers, okay? So the questions I have for you today are from not just scholarly, from the actual past papers from 2021 to 2023. And I do also have a copy of all the papers up here anyway. This is what it looks like, basically, as you can see. That's what yours will basically look like in the next, 2 weeks. I forgot how many days away it is, but basically in the next 2 weeks, alrighty? Okay, so let's get into it. I want to see down below who is from the scholarly army, who is feeling #ready for some questions today, guys. Who's ready? Let me see. Everyone's feeling ready. Everyone's feeling good. Awesome. Let's do it. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let me show you the very first question. Let's get right into it. Okay. Here it is. And this one is from the 2022 paper. Okay. So if you want to have a look at the whole paper as well, you can. Let's go through it together. Okay. So I've got this over here. The train journey from Jasper to Salamba stops at 4 other stations along the way. Okay. Jennifer boarded at Jasper and got off at the second last station. Okay, so we've got J, S, then 1, 2, 3, 4 in the middle, right? That's what we've got so far. Okay, easy. Let's keep going. Let's see what else is happening. Everyone following along so far? Yes, everyone good? Everyone good? Nice to draw little diagrams for these. Okay, let's keep going. Let's see what else happens next then. Good job, guys. All right. Now, here's what it says. We've got a bunch of info here. Cavalli is between Wadi and Gadapur. So K has to be between W and G, but it could also be the other way around. Okay, so see how it could be either way? That's why I'm writing down both possible combinations. All right, next one. The train goes at W before A. Okay, cool. Next, let's keep going. The train stops at A before G. Okay. Which train station did Jennifer get off at? Remember, Jennifer got off at the second last. So basically what we have to do is figure out what would be in the second last spot, okay? So before I reveal the answer, who's going to answer for me down below? Who thinks they've got it? Who thinks they've got the answer? Let me see. A bit tricky. Who thinks they've got the answer for this one? All right, I'm seeing a bunch. I'm seeing a bunch. Let's actually go through it together. So remember, we have to try to order this, right? We have to try to figure out where exactly this would go. Now, how can I use this piece of info? What I know for sure is that A over here is after W, right? A is after W, but also A is before G. So what do we think? Could I have this situation or this situation? If I need A to go somewhere here, this makes sense if A is before or after K, because then A is after W, but it's before G. Whereas the second situation doesn't make any sense because now A is before W and after G. So definitely not this. So what I can see here is that I have W, either A or K, A or K. I don't know the exact order, right? And G. That's what I know for sure. Okay. So that means, what is the second last station? What's the second last station going to be? Yeah, option D, exactly. And that's why your answer is option D. So careful with these sort of things. You are going to get stuff where it says, for example, Cavalli is located between Wadi and Gadapur, but it doesn't say directly in between, okay? Do not assume that it has to be directly in between. A lot of people made a silly mistake here. Comment down below for me. Who made an assumption for me? Who accidentally made an assumption? A lot of people, right? A lot of people did. And that's totally fair. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to trap you, okay? But be careful. Just because it's in between does not mean it's directly in between. There could also be other things in between. I don't know for sure. And then if you check against the other criteria, you see that I don't know exactly which one goes where. That's fine. But that's not what the question asks for anyway. The question specifically says what goes here, and that is guaranteed to be G. Okay? So, everyone crystal clear so far? Is that making sense, everyone? Yeah? Good, good, good. Perfect. Amazing stuff, guys. All right, let's keep going now on to our next question. Good job. Okay, that's that question done. Next, this one's also from the 2022 paper, so let's check it out. Taller adults tend to have larger feet. Careful. What does the word tend to mean? What does that actually mean? Who can tell me in the comments? What does that actually mean? It means that, yeah, a lot of them do have larger feet, but not everyone, okay? So there could be someone who is really tall, but still has small feet. It doesn't guarantee that it's true for everyone. So once again, it's not the same thing as must, okay? We're not going to assume that it is. Got it? All right, let's keep going. Next. Monaro says, your dad wears size 9 shoes and he's not as tall as my dad. So my dad's shoe size must be at least a 10. Is that true? Yes or no? Is that a true statement? I want to see a yes or no in the comments. Is that true? No, exactly. Why is it not true? Why is it not true? Well, here's the thing. The word must is what breaks this. Yes, overall, there's a high likelihood, there's a high chance that he will have a larger shoe size. But again, is it guaranteed? No. Remember, in thinking skills, you're going to see a lot of high modality language and a lot of low modality language. What does that actually mean? Modality is how certain something is, okay? So high modality means it's like 100% certain. Who can give me some examples of high modality words in the chat? Who can give me some? I mean, must is obviously an example. What else? Always, okay? Always is a good example. Certainly. Yes, these are all examples. Never. These are all high modality words. Perfect. Good job, guys. Now, what about low modality? Well, low modality is exactly the opposite of this, right? It's words that are a bit unsure. So, for example, words like could, words like might, words like can, words like tend to, like we saw in this question. So the problem with Monaro's statement, and the reason why Monaro is wrong for sure, is that Monaro assumes modality, okay? We cannot assume the modality. We always have to match the modality to what is given to us in the text, okay? Cool, let's keep going. Now, what about Kevin's statement? What does Kevin say? No, that's not right. My dad's feet might be bigger than your dad's. Tick, 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 because he says the word might. He doesn't assume that it must be true. So I agree. Kevin, option B looks good. Now, I have a hypothetical question for you all. What happens if Kevin said must instead? If Kevin said must, would you agree with Kevin? Nope, definitely not, right? Exactly. Must destroys it. So the word might is what makes this correct. Good job, guys. You are absolutely amazing today. All right, let's keep going on to the next one. This one is also from 2022. Let's check it out together. Are you ready? Alrighty. Access to the meeting room for a secret club is only possible by answering 2 security questions. Ooh, okay, we're going to be secret spies to this. The questions are based on the following sentence. Only members will be allowed in. Okay. Each day, everyone is given a number, which is the starting position. When anyone arrives at the door, they are given 2 numbers and they have to say the letters that appear in those positions if counting starts at that day's starting position. Okay, so today the first person was given the numbers 4 and 8 and responded with the letters E and O, which was correct. The second person, 3 and 10, what should they respond with? All right, before I reveal the answer once again, I want to see you guys starting this out. I want to see what you guys think. What do we think? So remember what it says, right? It says we have to start counting at that day's starting position. Okay, we have to start counting at that day's starting position. So what does that actually mean at that day's starting position? Interesting statement, right? So again, I'm going to try to figure out basically what the shift is. How are we moving from one thing to the other? I know that 4 is E, right? And I know that 8 is O. Those are the things that I know for sure. So now let's actually translate all these different letters. 3 and 10. How can I possibly translate them? What can I do? What can I do to translate these? Who can tell me? What's my answer going to be? Yeah, basically check what this cycle is. I have to follow the cycle. Exactly. So what's my cycle, guys? Let me see one more time. What's the answer? What's the answer going to be? What's the cycle going to be? Quick, quick, quick. I want everyone trying this out down below. The cycle. Okay, I'm seeing a range. Tricky, tricky, tricky. Here's the cycle, right? We have to follow along the pattern. So if I'm starting off over here with E being 4 and O being 10, how many letters apart are they in the actual alphabet? Who can tell me? How many letters are these actually apart? What's E properly in the alphabet? Who knows E, J, O, T, Y? E is the 5th, J is the 10th, O is the 15th, T is the 20th, and Y is the 25th letters of the alphabet. So in reality, E should be the 5th letter, and in reality, O should be the 15th letter. These should actually be 10 letters apart. But over here, they're only 4 letters apart, right? So I have to actually shift these correctly. I have to shift it correctly. If I actually go back to 3 now, right? That means each one here is going to be like a shifted bit. So that means 3 should actually represent B. Perfect. And then 10 should actually represent E. Exactly. And that is why I'm going to go with option C there. Is that now looking good for everyone? How we can represent that shift? Does that make sense now? Cool. Awesome. I'm seeing everyone's singing in the comments. Yeah. Yep. Alrighty. Perfect. Let's keep going. Everyone good? Let me see. All right. Oh, I'm seeing some people are like yes, some people are saying no. Okay, this one's a bit hard. Let's spend a little bit more time on it. Okay. So again, the idea here, guys, that sort of we're going around in a bit of a cycle. Okay. I'm basically going in a bit of a cycle. So let me write this one more time. Again, have a look at the cycle. It says every day everyone is given a number, which is the starting position. Okay. When you arrive at the door, you're given two numbers, and then you have to say the letters that appear in those positions if you start counting at that day's starting position. So if you're given 4 is E and 8 is O, we have to figure out what the starting position would be and then correctly map from that starting position. So that's the first question I'll give you guys then. So to break it down into a couple more steps. What would the starting position be? If I was going with 4 being E and, oops, let me not rub that out. With 4 being E, what would the starting position be? What would it be? Who can tell me? What would it be? I want everyone to tell me down below. Yeah, exactly, right? So you have to figure out the starting position. Okay, is it I? Who thinks it's I? Comment down below for me, yes, if you think the starting position is I. Exactly, right? So again, I'm just checking out when should I start counting in this cycle, okay? When should I start counting? Once I can figure out where to start counting from, then I can go ahead and repeat this cycle over and over and over, right? So once I repeat the cycle, I can actually go ahead and check what would 3 be and what would 10 be. 3 would have to be B because my cycle is now being repeated. And again, 10, the cycle repeats again, and I end up back at E. And that's why I get B and E there. You have to work out a cycle, okay? So sometimes with questions like this, it's not going to be as simple, just like move a couple positions down in the alphabet. It will actually be a cyclical repetition, alrighty? And that's what's going on in that question. Cool, alrighty? Makes sense now? Let's keep on to the next one. Everyone good? Everyone good? Everyone good? Yep. Perfect. Also, I wanted to say, guys, for everyone, by the way, in case you missed out, you want to look at a question again, this is totally fine because what you can do is actually, we've got a bit of a resource for you all, okay? So comment down below for me if you've ever seen the Scholarly YouTube before. Have you ever seen the Scholarly YouTube before? Now, this, as I said to you all, is from the 2022 paper. So actually what we have given for you guys for completely free is actually all the solutions from the 2022 and the 2023 paper in more detail, okay? So if for some reason you'd want to go back and look at another question from this paper or just look at this question again, you need some more help with it, you want to do it again, totally fine. What you can do is you can actually go on the Scholarly YouTube and check that out. Sounds like a good plan, everyone? So if you want to look at it again, you're like, I need some time. I need some time to like sit this in the back of my head. Totally fine. You can have a look at it again, okay? So make sure you have a look at that after this webinar. All right, next question. Let's do it. What about this one? Number 4. A bird sanctuary has 4 parrots. Cliff, Echo, Muse, and Sky. They're keeping track of the treats the parrots like to eat. Alrighty, interesting. They have found that if a parrot eats apples, it also eats carrots. Okay, so if apples, then carrots. Now, here's the trick, and I see this a lot in thinking skills. Comment down below for me. Can you just assume that this works backwards? Can you assume that this works backwards? Yes or no? No, right? I cannot assume that this works backwards. So just because if you like apples, that means you like carrots, that doesn't mean that if you like carrots, you also like apples. I don't know if it works the other way around, okay? Now, next sentence. If a parrot eats carrots, it also eats melons. So if it eats carrots, then it eats melons. Cool. No parrot that eats carrots also eats peas, okay? So carrots will never go with peas. And again, carrots will never go with peas. Cool. Now we have to check which of the following must be true. Again, what do you think the answer might be before I actually show you what it would be? What do we think? What would the answer have to be for this one? All right, I'm seeing some answers. Good job. Let's check it out together. So let's see. Let's have a look at each of the answer options. A, if Cliff eats peas, he also eats apples. Definitely not the case. Why? If Cliff eats peas, that means he does not eat carrots. And if I take this first statement and I take the contrapositive, like flip it and negate it, flip and add the word not, That means if you do not eat carrots, you don't eat apples. So there's no way you also eat apples. That is definitely a false statement. Okay? Everyone here familiar with the contrapositive? Everyone remembers the contrapositive from class? Yes? All right, perfect. So that's why that one's gone. Okay, cool. Next, if Echo does not eat peas, then he does not eat carrots. No, right? Not necessarily. I know that these two things sort of work oppositely, right? So if you eat carrots, you don't eat peas, which means if you don't eat peas, you could still eat carrots, right? You could still eat carrots. I don't know for sure, so I'm definitely not going to go with that. Next, let me zoom in so you can see a bit better. If Muse eats peas, she does not eat apples. Exactly, because if you eat peas, you cannot eat carrots. And if you don't eat carrots, you don't eat apples. That is the exact application of the contrapositive that I was explaining earlier. Perfect. And now, last one. If Sky does not eat apples, she does not eat carrots. No, that's not true. Remember, I cannot just assume that I can add the word not here and make it true. That's not true. It doesn't make any sense, right? So I'll give you a much easier example to sort of try to imagine this. Okay, here's an easier example. Here it is. Let me write it down. If it rains, I will wear a coat. Okay, let's add the word not. If it does not rain, I will not wear a coat. Does that make sense? Is that guaranteed to be true? Right? For example, what if it's not raining, but it's just really cold and I want to wear a coat, right? What if I want to just wear a coat because it's really, really, really cold? That's totally fine, right? So as you can see, adding the word not does not guarantee something to be true, okay? Instead, to make it true, you have to flip and then add the word not. That's the really important thing there. So that's why with question number 4, I'm definitely going to go with C. Everyone good with that? Making sense, everyone? Yep, cool. All right, perfect. Amazing, guys. Let's keep going. Next up, we just did that one. Number 5. All right, another 2022 question. A street has a line of 5 houses next to each other on one side of the road. They all have front doors that are painted a different color. Cool. Okay, let's now have a look at this. A student looks at the houses from the opposite side of the road. The student labels them according to the color of the front door and records which are left to right. Now, be very, very, very careful. What's the important key word here? Opposite. I want everyone to write down the word opposite. Why is that a key word? Because that means your lefts and rights are going to be swapped. Exactly. So if I'm looking at you right now, again, I don't know if my camera's flipping this, but right now, this is my right hand and this is my left hand. I don't know what it looks like on the camera. If I turn around, this now looks like right to you. It actually swaps, okay? So if you swap, everything swaps directions as well, which means I'm going to need to actually swap around the directions, okay? Now, let's try have a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 houses. Let's see what this table says, then we can figure it out, okay? If I have a look at the blue house, for example, there's nothing to the left of the blue house, which means where is the blue house going to go? The blue house is going to go all the way on the very left from this person's perspective, right? All the way to the very left. There's nothing else left. Then the other ones are left, okay? What's on the very right-hand side? The pink. The pink has to be on the very right-hand side. Why does the pink have to be on the right-hand side? Because there's nothing to the right of pink, as you can see. Makes sense so far, everyone? Everyone following along there? Yes, let me see the comments. Everyone good? All right, perfect. Now, let's keep going with the rest of the order. Now that I've done the edges, I can figure out what's in the middle, okay? Let's see. Over here, I only have pink to the right of green, which means green has to go over here. Nothing else to the right of it. What about left? On the left of red is only blue, which means red has to go here, only blue to the left of it. Okay, last one. What's left now in the middle? Yellow is left in the middle. And it makes sense. These two things are to the left of yellow. These two things are to the right of yellow. So as you can see, that all makes sense. Now, which 2 houses are next to the yellow house? Yellow, which 2? Green and red, exactly. And that's option D. Is that all good for everyone now? Everyone good? I would definitely recommend drawing it out, okay? With questions like this, the easiest way to do it is start from the edges and move your way in, okay? So if you start from like over here, what we just did, from blue and pink, then you can have less spots to fill out in the middle and you can work your way inwards. Alrighty, good job, everyone. That was really, really, really good. Another one. Let's keep going. Number 6. Let's check out number 6. Let's see what's going on with this one. Who's ready for this one? Are we all ready? Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's go. Mrs. Walker would like to investigate whether drinking milk with lunch makes any difference to her students' results in a times tables test. So she decides to do an experiment. Okay, that makes sense. All right, let's have a look at this experiment now. She splits her class into two groups according to their birthdays. For one whole month, students who were born between January and June are given milk with their lunch. Okay. Those who are born between July and December, they're given juice. After 1 month, she gives the whole class a times tables test. On average, the students who drank milk with their lunch score, yep, they scored 5 marks better than the students who drank juice. Interesting. Now, here's what Mrs. Walker says, and I want you guys to try find the flaw, the mistake that Mrs. Walker has made in her argument. Mrs. Walker, so it's true then, drinking milk with lunch improves children's ability to remember the times tables. Okay, guys, who can tell me what's the mistake here? Is it A, is it B, is it C, or is it D? All right, let's check it out together. Let's have a look. A, some of the students might drink a lot of milk or juice at home. Well, this is completely irrelevant, actually, because what it says here is that she wants to specifically test with lunch. Well, if it actually helps if you drink it with lunch. So whether you drink it at home or not has nothing to do with drinking it specifically with your lunch at school. So that's completely irrelevant. As you can see, not going to work. All right, what about B? The students who drank milk may have been better at timetables before the experiment started. Exactly, right? Just because you drink milk, that doesn't mean that you didn't already know your times tables, right? In order to actually properly run this experiment, guys, you have to control something. Like you have to make sure that all the students, for example, have the same capability of times tables before the experiment starts. You have to have an even playing field at the beginning to make the experiment fair. Has Mrs. Walker made the experiment fair in this question? Yes or no? Definitely not, right? Definitely not a fair experiment. Exactly. So that's the issue. Now let's check the other ones as well. The students who drank juice might do better in other kinds of activities. Once again, this is completely irrelevant. The test is about times tables, not about other activities. So I don't really care about this one. Last one. More of the students may have been born between January and June than July and December. Well, again, it doesn't matter how many students there are, right? It says the score was better. So the average score was better. So the average already accounts for how many students there are. So having more or less students is not going to change your average because the trend should still continue. So as you can see, that is not going to work. That is completely irrelevant. Sounds good for everyone? Everyone okay with number 6 there as well? Yes, 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 yes. All right, amazing. Let's keep going. Where's number 7? Here it is. In a competition, I've got 11 students who are allowed 2 attempts at jumping as far as possible. Okay, cool. The longer distance in the 2 attempts is counted as the result. Okay, so let's first of all eliminate the stuff that we don't care about. I'm only going to count their longest distance. So not this one, 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 and not this one. Cool. Now, I want to find who came 5th. So let's go ahead and rank them. Okay, first of all, I want you guys to tell me which number came first. Which number came first? Which number came first? All right, let's check it out. Who came first? First has to be the biggest, right? Which means who came first? Yeah, 11. 11 came first. Cool. Now, what's 5.8? This is second. 5.7 would be third. 5.6 would be fourth, and 5.5 would be fifth, which means fifth is student number 9, and that's the way you can get that done. Cool. Everyone good with that one as well? Not too much going on with that one. Just make sure you don't fall for the silly mistake. Like, only check their best score according to the question. Now, you could get different types of variations of this. Sometimes they'll say their average score is counted. Sometimes they'll say their lowest score is counted. So always make sure you read the question carefully to check what that specific version of the question that you have actually says. All right. Okay, number 8. Let's have a look at number 8. Let's go. Let's have a look at this. Gabriella says that zoos should be banned because it is wrong, okay, it is wrong, to keep wild animals in captivity. She says that animals should have the right to live in their natural habitats. All right. Generally, for these types of arguments, guys, I like to consider 2 things, the conclusion and the reason. Now, why do I also care about the reason, not just the conclusion? Why? Because if you get a really hard question, you could actually get something that has multiple answers that weaken or multiple answers that strengthen. And then you have to pick the best one. So how are you supposed to pick the best one? You pick the one that is the most relevant to the argument that you're looking at, okay? The one that is the most relevant. So let's check it out. My conclusion here is obviously the fact that zoos should be banned. Why should they be banned? Because it is wrong to keep animals in captivity. They should have the right to live in their natural habitats. Now, I want to weaken this. Let's see what the answer might be. Who's got an answer for me? I think I saw a lot of people saying C. So let's check it out. Let's go. Zoos provide an opportunity for humans to see wild animals without having to go on safari. Again, this is completely irrelevant. Were humans mentioned in this text? No. It was about the rights of animals, not humans, right? So completely irrelevant, as you can see. That's gone. All right, next. Modern zoos try to ensure animals are given some exercise and stimulation. What do we think? Trap. And I'll tell you why it's a trap, right? Trap. Because this says, like, okay, some animals benefit from the zoo, but only through exercise and stimulation. Does it say that this couldn't happen in the wild? No. Does it actually say that the zoo does something that the wild does not do? No. So just because the zoo does something good does not mean that the wild also doesn't do this good thing, okay? I can't assume that it happens only at the zoo, so that's gone. Whereas option C here looks awesome because it says some animal species will die out completely if they weren't bred in captivity, which means actually, here's one thing the zoo definitely does better than keeping wild animals in the wild, because in the wild, they will actually die out, whereas in captivity, we can make sure that they don't die out. So this one definitely appropriately weakens that argument. All right, the last one. While animals kept in confined spaces can display extremely distressed behavior. This strengthens the argument. It says that actually, hey, animals hate being in captivity. We should let them be free, okay? So everyone good now with why I'm going to go with option C? Does that make sense? Is everyone okay with that one? Yeah, amazing. All right, we're doing very, 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 very well, guys. Now, stay tuned. We have 2 more questions left, but also after the questions, going to be running you guys through some time management tips, okay? Because comment down below for me if you find thinking skills really hard to finish on time. Is that a problem for a lot of people? Yeah, okay. So that's what we're going to go through after the questions. We're going to go through some time management as well. So stay tuned, okay? All right, let's do number 9. Let's have a look at this. The Barraga lizard and Indora lizard are very similar. The only major difference between the 2 species is their diet. Barragas mostly eat termites and ants, and occasionally eat other insects and even things like snails. Indoras will eat almost anything if they are hungry, and they especially like termites, but they never, ever, ever eat ants. And in fact, ants are poisonous to Indoras. Okay, interesting. Now, let's have a look. They've rescued a lizard, but they want to find out what species it is. Okay, let's check it out. First of all, before I reveal it, who's got an answer for me? Is it A, is it B, is it C, or is it D? Who's got an answer? Let me see. Oh, I'm seeing some debate for this one too. Okay, let's check it out together. So, Kira says, if we only feed it termites, we'll be no closer to knowing whether it's a Barraga or an Indora. Is that a true statement? Yes, that is true. Here's why that statement is true. Because it says here, Barragas do eat termites and Indoras also eat termites. So if they both eat termites, is that going to help me find the difference between them? No, right? It's not going to help me differentiate at all between them. So this is definitely a true statement. Okay, what about June? The only way that we could know for certain would be to give it some ants. What do we know? What is that true? Is that a true statement? Who can tell me yes or no? Let's break it down, right? I know that Barragas love eating ants. I know that Indoras never eat ants, okay? But it also says that they will eat almost anything. Pretty much the only thing they don't eat is ants, according to the text. Now, in reality, I'm no lizard expert. In reality, yes, these lizards could eat other stuff or could have other stuff that's poisonous for them. That's not ants. But according to the text, this is actually the only mention of an exception. It's the only mention of an exception according to the text. So this actually would tell me for certain, and I do agree that it would be the only way according to the text. Again, is it true in real life? I don't know. I don't know anything about lizards, to be honest with you guys. But according to the text, because it says they eat almost anything, and the only exception it actually gives is the ants, that's why option C there actually looks like a very appealing option. Does that now make sense? I think that was really tricky. I think people really got thrown off by the word only. But does that make sense? Is that good now? Yeah. Okay, good job, everyone. Very, very, very good job. Let's keep going. All right, one last question. We're going to look at some time management as well. Are you ready? Let's do it. Let's go. Here it is. Plots of land within a community garden are allocated for people to grow fruit and vegetables. The plots come in a variety of sizes, okay, and the garden consists of 7 plots as described in this table below. Which of the plans could be the plots of the garden? And for each plot, the length is the longest side and the width is the shortest side. All right, now, this is quite hard. This is quite tricky. So, comment down below for me. Who thinks they've got an answer for me down below? Any answers for me down below? Who's got any answers? Let me see. Okay, seeing a bit of a range. Good stuff, good stuff. Let's check it out together, all right? So first of all, what I need to do is I need to figure out what is matching. I need something that is 4 by 4 and something else that is 4 by 4. So what would this look like? What does a 4 by 4 plot look like? What shape? What shape is this? It's up to an S. It is a square, right? Exactly, it's a square. So actually, I need 2 squares over here that are the exact same, and I also need 1 square here that is bigger, okay? So I need 2 little squares, 1 big square. 2 little squares, 1 big square. Which answer option has that? Here I'm seeing a big square and a small square, but I don't see 2 identical squares. So what's happening with option A? Do you think option A is going to work? No, definitely not. Okay. Again, here, am I seeing any squares? I'm seeing 2 little squares, and that's about it. Not going to happen. 2 little squares, 1 big square. Looks awesome to me. Over here, 1 big square, 2 little squares, and 2 even smaller squares. Well, I shouldn't have 2 smaller squares. Go on. So immediately, just by comparing exactly how many identical shapes you have, that's going to be your correct answer. Does that now make sense? And you can actually see how the rest of it would fit in together. So for example, this over here, 6 by 3 and 6 by 3 should be these 2 that are identical. Right? And this one over here is also identical. And then you're only left with 7 by 4, which would be this thing here. Perfect. Now, in general, when you have a pattern recognition question, let me talk about this in general. What do you do when you get a pattern question? Who can tell me? What's the strategy? What do I do in general? What do I look for? Well, it depends on the type of pattern you have to recognize, okay? It depends on the type of shape you have to recognize. If it's a 3D question, what I want you to look for is 2 things. What shape sticks in? Okay, I want you to look for what shape sticks in and what shape sticks out, okay? Because when you're talking in 3 dimensions, something could be going into the page and something could be going out of the page. Does that make sense to everyone so far? This is if you have a 3D question. Now, if you have a 2D question, what could you do? What could you do if you have a 2D question instead? What do you do? Who can tell me in the comments? Let me see. All right, well, let me give you some more ideas. Now, another thing you could look for is you could look for in 2D, and depending on the type of question, you can look for any shapes that are the same or similar in size. For example, we just did a question where we had 2 identical squares, right? By identifying how many identical squares we have, we got the answer right. What else could we do instead? What else could we do to get this done? Well, what we can do is we can also have a look at adjacent shapes. What does adjacent mean? Who can tell me in the chat? What does the word adjacent mean? It means shapes that are next to each other. So adjacent is literally just a fancy word for next to. Check what shapes are next to each other. What else can you also check? You can also check, all right, other than this, you can actually check the biggest and the smallest shapes, okay? So this won't really apply for the question we just did, but comment down below if you've seen any thinking skills questions before with graphs. Who has seen thinking skills questions with graphs, right? And they're very common. So if you get a pattern recognition question that involves graphs, it could be, for example, a pie chart. It could be, for example, I don't know, a bar graph or a line graph. Check the biggest and the smallest numbers, okay? That is my strategy for you guys there. So comment down below for me if you are hashtag crystal clear with all of these. Is that now making sense for everyone? Is everyone hashtag crystal clear with all of these? Amazing. Now, let's talk a little bit about time management, okay? Because it's pretty tricky to try to manage your time in questions like this. So let's think about time management, okay? Time management. First of all, who can tell me in the comments, how long do you have in Selective to do thinking skills? Who remembers? How long do you actually have? How long is the test? Come on, you guys should all know this. Exactly. 40 minutes for thinking skills, right? Yes, it will be slightly different for different things. Like if you look at maths and English, it could be different. But for thinking skills, what you actually have is 40 minutes, 40 questions. And I'm sure you guys can all do the maths, right? That only means you have 1 minute per question. Now, the idea here is this, okay? Here's the problem. Are you going to do every single question in 1 minute? Yes or no? Every single question in 1 minute? No. Some questions are going to be super fast. Some questions are only going to take you 10, 20, 30 seconds. When you save time for those questions, you now have extra time to actually use for the harder questions, okay? If you see a really tricky question and you're like, oh my goodness, I don't really know what to do, that's okay, right? That's totally fine. That's not the end of the world. That doesn't make a difference. Because even if you see a question that takes longer, there will be another question that will take shorter, and you can work it out. Now, I want you to work out your own personal strengths and weaknesses. Comment down below for me if you have a question type that you always get right or a question type that you always get wrong. So, for example, some people are like, oh, I really hate strengthening reasoning questions. I always get these wrong. But I'm really good at Venn diagram questions. And what does that mean? That means you're going to tell yourself, I'm going to give myself less time for the thing I'm really good at and more time for the thing I'm really bad at, okay? And you can simplify stuff like this. Now, let's have a think about how to balance all the different types of thinking skills questions. As you can see, right, what I actually saw in today's questions that I have a lot of different question types. What is one of the most common question types you're going to see? Really, really, really common question is the strengthening and weakening questions, okay? If you look at, for example, the 2023 paper, guys, these are extremely common. Like they come up a lot. So this is the real 2023 paper. Let me change my scrolling so you can see how often they come up, right? If you scroll through, there's like a couple of ordering questions, as you can see. A flaw question, these are really common as well. So make sure you're good at these because they come up a lot. There's a couple of maths questions. I'll talk about these in a second. Okay. Ordering question again. Weakening question. Ordering question. Again. As you can see, flaw question again. Reasoning type of question. Shape question. Again, logic slash flaw question. And you could keep on going with this, right? So as you can see, they kind of repeat pretty much the same question styles over and over and over again, okay? Most of the test should be like pretty much the same question type over and over. Typically, you'll see some logic-based questions, you'll see some strengthening, weakening, you'll see some flaw stuff. That's basically the structure of the test, okay? Now, there could also be some questions that you don't really know what category they fall into, okay? So for example, if I show you something like this one's a bit strange, this domino question, if you have a look at the 2023 paper. And again, you can have a look at the Scholarly YouTube for like a full in-depth explanation. If you guys want to go through it, I'm happy to go through it at the end of this webinar as well, if people want to go through it, okay? Comment down below if you want to go through it at the end. Who wants to go through another tricky question at the end? Okay, people are saying, yeah, okay, we'll have a look, see if we have time. Now, if you get a question that you're like, okay, I've never seen this before, I don't know what to do not panic because those questions, they will come up. They always try to put 1 or 2 questions that are not the same style just to break it up a bit. And also they want to make you panic, guys, right? Because what happens when you panic? Who can tell me? What happens in an exam when you panic? Your brain fogs up, right? Your brain becomes chaos and then you start stressing and then you start forgetting the easy stuff, right? So you definitely don't want to panic. So if you get something that you don't know what's going on, something you haven't really seen before, it's okay. This question, you might not have seen dominoes that often before, but when you actually break it down, it's not too bad. All you're doing is you're basically filling in the blanks, okay? And I'll show you again that later on today. So even if you get a tricky question that you have no idea what's going on, number 1 tip is do not panic, okay? You can always relate it back to something that you've already known. So something like this, you can relate it back to pattern recognition questions that we just spoke about a second ago, and so on and so forth. Now, one of the most important things that you'll see in thinking skills is the thing I always tell you guys. What is the number 1 rule of thinking skills? Who can tell me down below? What's the number 1 rule of thinking skills? What is it? No assumptions. Exactly. There is not ever a situation in this whole paper where you need to assume anything, okay? So if you catch yourself making an assumption. What that actually means, okay, what this actually means is, hey, I've got a problem. I've done something wrong, okay? You only base stuff off what you see in the text, and that is it. What if you see a question on lizards and you're like a lizard expert? Nah, no one cares, okay? All you do is you specifically look at what was in the text. They're going to give you stuff in the text that makes no sense. Like, comment below if you've seen those really weird questions that say, like, all cats are dogs, all dogs are cows. Craziness, right? They make no sense, but that's fine. All you do is you follow along from the text, and that's it. You don't assume, you don't do anything else at all, okay? Now, what about some other type of logic questions that you can't visualize? Comment down below for me if you struggle to visualize things in your head sometimes, like you need to sort of write it down. It's perfectly normal, especially when you have a question that gives you a lot of information. What you need to do is draw a very simple, easy diagram, okay? So, very simple thing you can do. If you have a question that mentions some of something, it mentions all of something, it mentions none of something, what's my strategy in that type of question? What am I going to do? Draw a Venn diagram. Exactly. What's a Venn diagram? Well, basically, it was named after this guy. His name was Venn, right? Hence why it's called a Venn diagram. And it's literally just a bunch of interlocking circles. So if I say sum, that means the two circles should touch. If sum of A is also B, I need to have this. If I say all of A is B, that means every single thing in A is inside B. If A and B never, ever touch, it'll say none of A is B. So you can use stuff like this to help you visualize different questions. Okay, that's one type of diagram. Also, there's going to be ordering questions. We looked at those today as well, where I just basically drew a bunch of blanks like this, and I started from there. What do you do from those questions? You always work from the most specific piece of information first, okay? So for example, in that question earlier about the houses, what did we do? We started ordering from the edges going in, right? Always start with what gives you the most detail, and then you can fill in the blanks as you go along, always with the most detail, okay? Does that all make sense to everyone so far? Is that good for everyone so far? Yes, 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 yes. All right, perfect. Now, I want to know, what questions do you all find to be the trickiest questions? What's the trickiest questions for some people? Let me see. Because otherwise, let's go through a couple more questions today. All right. First of all, what I might do as well is I'm seeing some people requesting, can we please go through one of the questions from before in a little bit more detail? And then a lot of people are also saying, what do I do with spatial reasoning? Okay, let's do that. Here's what I'm going to run you guys through. I'm going to run you through that question from before that a lot of people found a bit tricky. So we'll go through that one more time. And then I'm also going to run you through a couple of spatial reasoning questions. And one last thing that I'm seeing people mentioning in the chat. What do I do with maths? Like, those thinking skills questions that are really maths heavy. For example, you know those cheapest shop questions that says the cheapest shop, blah, 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 and they're really, really, really annoying. What do I do? How do I do those quickly? We're going to have a look at all that today. Sounds like a plan, everyone? Comment down below for me if you're hashtag ready. Let's do it. Okay, first thing, because there's a lot of requests about that previous question, let's do it one more time just to make sure everyone's got it. Sounds good, everyone? One more time for that previous question. All right, this is the question I'm talking about. Let me scroll back up. This one here is the one a lot of people, not this one. Not this one. This one was people that a lot of people found really difficult. Okay, so let's do it one more time to make sure everyone gets it. Okay, just make sure everyone gets it. Basically, we have this sentence. Only, actually, let me make it a bit bigger. Only members will be allowed in. Okay, everyone good so far? Where did I get this sentence from? I got it from here. See how it says only members will be allowed in? It says this is like the following sentence that everything is based on. Yeah, okay, cool. So that's where I got everything from. All right, now what does it say? It says that I have to basically order everything, okay? I have to order everything as I go along. It says over here that I've got E is 4 and O is 8. So let's have a look. Where do I see E and where do I see O? Okay, well, basically a bit of a cycle. For example, if you have a look over here, here's E and here's O. And it says this is number 4 and this is number 8. Everyone see that so far? Yeah? Everyone okay with that so far? Yes, 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 yes. All right, now what can I do? I have to figure out where the cycle continues. As you can see, what's happening here? This is E again. So what does that mean? It means basically my cycle's like restarting, right? Let's keep going. Now, what's B going to be? 3, right? Because it's right before. This will be 2. This will be 1. This will be 0. This will be the start of my cycle. Okay, interesting. And now, if I keep on going, I have to find what 10 would be. Well, 10, 9, 10. 10 would also be E. Does that now make sense how I got like B and E for everything? Does that make it a bit clearer? Everyone okay with that one now? I basically just went ahead and just drew everything out. Yeah? Good. All right, perfect. Everyone good? Amazing. All right, now let me go back to the next thing that I was going to talk about, and that was spatial reasoning. So let's do a spatial reasoning question. Who is ready for a spatial reasoning question? Okay, let's find one from actually the 2023 paper to show you all. Let me find one. Let me actually scroll and find one. Let's check. Aha, okay. Question number 10 from the 2023 paper. All right, here's the question. I want you guys to tell me what you think the answer is. 2023, question number 10. What do you think the answer might be for number 10? All right, let me see some answers. Okay, you guys are doing really well. Awesome. I agree. The answer is going to be B. Why is it B? Well, let's go and run through it together, okay? We want to have a look at a view from each different side, okay? And have a look from this side. I'll be able to see this shape, okay? That looks exactly like this. I'll be able to see this shape. That looks exactly like this. I'll be able to see this shape here. And also this top side. But careful, the top will not look like a triangle because I'm looking at it from the side, right? So I can't see the part that's overlapped by this section. I can only see really the top bit. And that's why it actually looks like a rectangle. Does that make sense now why that sort of distorts and looks like a rectangle? Yeah, is that good for everyone there? Cool. Now, what about the rest of this? Why do the other ones not work? Well, if you try to look from the other sides, you'll see that they actually don't give you the correct shape. For example, if you have a look from this side, you're going to get this shape, okay, which kind of looks like option D, but here's the problem. Why is there a line there? There shouldn't be a line there. Bye-bye option D, you're gone. Okay. All right, let's keep looking from other angles. If I have a look at, for example, from this side, okay, I can see that maybe I would have a slant, like this sort of shape. Okay, cool. That could work. But again, I can't actually see exactly what this will look like, and I don't see any second layer. I don't know where that second layer is coming from. Should that second layer be there? Nope. So what do we think about this one? It's gone, right? Exactly. And then if you have a look at option A, again, similar sort of process. Let me see what sort of angle I could look at from option A. I can see that option A has absolutely zero lines anywhere. And whatever view I look at it from, whether I look at it from this side, from this side, from this side, from this side, wherever I go from, you'll see that actually there's always a line. So 0 lines by option A, okay? So again, with these sorts of questions, when you have a view from all different sides questions, I would say try to break it down from each view. Start from this side, then go to this side, from this side to this side, okay? Also, what I see sometimes is questions that talk about walking in a museum, okay? Comment down below if you've seen like a question that says, walking in a museum, I can see this sculpture, or blah, 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 right? You guys have all seen those? Yeah? Awesome. In those questions, be careful because if you're walking in a museum, right, you can't fly. You can't fly. So you can't look at it always from the top, depending on the context of the question. If the question says you can look at it from any side, then you can look at it from the top. You can look at it from the bottom. But if it says you're just walking around the structure, if it says the word around, that means you don't have to look from the top or from the bottom because walking around doesn't mean you fly all of a sudden. So just be careful with something like that as well. Okay. Cool. One more type of spatial reasoning question that I want to touch on. Let me see if there's one of these in this paper, actually. And that is basically trying to imagine nets of shapes. Okay. Well, let's do this one as well. Who's good with nets of shapes? Comment down below for me if you're really good with nets. Who likes or hates net questions? They're pretty hard sometimes, okay? So if you struggle with them, don't worry. Let's go through this one, and I'll show you another net question as well. So this is question 34 of the 2023 paper. Let's have a look at it. The diagram below shows the top view and 2 side views, okay? The top view. Now, I have to actually go ahead and match this, okay? Before I actually reveal it, I want to know what you guys think the answer is. Is it, let me zoom out so you can see them all. Is it A, is it B, is it C, or is it D? What do you think? Bit tricky. What am I thinking? What am I thinking? Okay, awesome. Exactly. What is it? It's option C. And here's why it's option C, okay? First of all, I have the top. The top should look, as you can see, like this, all right? So I've got this, okay? Well, this one doesn't go all the way down, so definitely not option A. All right. What else can I do now if I keep having a look at each of the rest of the answer options, if I try to relate it, does it have to necessarily go in this direction for the top, or could I actually also rotate it around? Could I rotate the cube? I could actually rotate the cube around, right? So be careful. You have to check how exactly it would match. You have to check if any side has the correct pattern. So for example, this shape, if I take it here, guys, and I rotate it around, like I rotate it this way, it could look something like that, right? Or I could rotate it and make it look something like that, and so on and so forth. Okay, now let's have a think about how these different things could connect. If I take this side view over here, right, that looks exactly like this side view. Again, as you can see, A does not have that missing line. This side view, again, as you can see, should only go all the way there. So that's gone. Let's check if C works for the rest of them. It should have this happening, okay? Do I have lines here? Yeah, that looks good. And do I have this top thing here as well? Yes. So option C looks like my best possible answer. Does that again make sense for everyone now? Everyone good? Yes, yes, yes. All right, awesome. Now, one last thing I said I was going to mention, right? And that was nets. Nets, nets, nets. First of all, who can tell me how many nets do you think a cube has? How many nets does a cube have? Total, how many nets does it have? Yeah, it actually has 11, okay? It has 11 nets. So some shapes are going to have multiple nets, okay? And that's totally fine. The most common net you're going to see for a cube looks something like this. Okay, let me draw it out. I'll draw it as best as I can. Something like this. Now, you could get another one. For example, it could also look something like this. Okay, let me draw another one. It could go like this. Now, these are two completely different nets, but they give you the same shape. So let's break it down. Why do they give you the same shape, and how can you imagine it? The trick is to always check opposite sides. I want everyone to write that down. Opposite faces, I should say, opposite faces. Always check opposite faces. Now, what do I mean by opposite faces? Well, let's run through that. What does that mean? What I do is I always assign a base. What does assign mean? It means I choose something to be the base. Does it matter what I choose to be the base? No, it actually doesn't matter at all. So for example, I can make this the base, and then everything will be relative to that base. Or if I want, I could make this the base. Everything will be relative to that base. It doesn't matter what you make the base, because you can always rotate the shape around, right? Like, do I have a cube on my desk? Aha, there you go. I've got a little 2x2 Rubik's Cube. Comment down below for me if you really like playing with a Rubik's Cube. Little 2x2, right? So for example, over here, if I rotate it, oops, I get back to the exact same spot. So you can rotate it around and so on and so forth. All right, cool. Now, let's say I make the red one the base. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fold along each side and see what happens. Folding along here, if I fold from the base upwards, I'm going to get a side. Upwards, I'm going to get a side. And these two sides are going to be opposites. Now again, fold this inwards, I get a side. Fold this inwards, I get a side. And once again, these two things here will be opposites. Now, what does that leave me with? That leaves me with the top, which means, as you can see, these two things will be opposites, okay? Now, again, I have another one here. I have another cube that looks completely different. Let's do the same process and let's see what would happen. Here's the base. Fold this up, you get a side. Fold this up, you get a side. However, these sides are not going to be opposites. Why not? Who can tell me why these are not opposites in the comments? Why are these not opposites? Anyone? Why are they not opposites? Yeah, the reason why they're not opposites is because if you have a base, you fold one thing upwards, it will be at the front. One thing upwards will be on the side. It'll be like this, not opposites, okay? But if I fold this inwards, then these two here are going to be opposites. That looks good. And now, if I've already folded this inward, so it stands like this, folding something this way, this will go this way, and that side will now be opposite to this side, okay? And now, of course, again, I'm left with the top, and the top will be opposite to the base, okay? So you get the idea, right? The cube net might look different, but it actually still can give you the same shape. Now, do I expect you to memorize all 11 nets of a cube? No, right? Definitely not. There's no need to memorize any nets, okay? That's totally fine. You don't need to do that. But what you do need to be able to do is, given a particular shape, be able to actually check what side could be opposite, what side could be next to something. That's one type of question that you could get. Alrighty? Cool. Any other tricky question styles you guys need some help with? Oh, yes, one thing I forgot to mention is the maths stuff, the sort of use of maths in thinking skills. How much maths do you ever get in thinking skills? Okay. First of all, you could get questions that are a little bit annoying with the maths. Typically, there's a shortcut involved, okay? If there's maths and thinking skills, there's usually some sort of shortcut. Why? Because they have a whole maths exam to test you on maths, right? So they're not going to waste their time testing you on mathematical calculations in a thinking skills exam. So if you're spending ages doing a calculation, what does that mean? It means you're probably not doing it in the most efficient way. So you can always use different tricks. For example, cheapest shop questions. Comment down below for me if you find these questions really, really, really annoying. Where they give you like 4 shops and they give you all these discounts and you have to work out what it is. You hate them, right? You're like, oh, this takes so long. Typically, you can usually narrow down to 2 answer options, okay? And once you narrow down to 2, then you only have to calculate 2 things, not 4, right? Also, you can do some rounding or approximating for some questions when you only really care about only around the size of the number, but not the actual number itself. So again, you don't have to deal with ugly decimals and ugly fractions and things like that, okay? Everyone good with that? That's what I would recommend in general. Also, make sure you're really comfortable with fraction tricks. So for example, if I give you, let me think. How can I make this calculation really fast? Who can tell me? How can I make this calculation really quick? What can I do? Without a calculator, obviously, right? What can I do to make it quick? Here's what I would do to make it quick. Watch this. I would make it 346 divided by 2 times 900. Why would I do that? Because 900 divided by 2 is what? What is 900 divided by 2? 450, right? Aha. And now, that's the exact same problem. This is the same as this. Now, doing 346 divided by 2 will actually make the number smaller. It's an even number, so I'm going to get 173. And now timesing by 900 means just times by 9, add 2 zeros. So you're going to be able to recognize little patterns like that in thinking skills, so you're not wasting time on maths calculations. Everyone hashtag crystal clear with this. Everyone crystal clear. Alrighty. Cool. Does anyone have any other last minute questions they would like to ask me today? That was an amazing time. Did you guys all enjoy today's webinar? Did you all find it really useful? Who found it useful? Who really enjoyed? Now, one quick thing I want to say, okay? If you are feeling very nervous for selective, if you are feeling very stressed for selective, don't worry, okay? I'm sure you guys are all very, 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 very well prepared, okay? Do not let yourself panic. Don't let yourself freak out. All I want you to do is prepare as much as you can in the next week. Make sure you're still getting enough sleep. Don't sacrifice your sleep to prepare. Get enough sleep, eat well, sleep well, relax, okay? And then when you go into the test, it'll all be okay, alrighty? You guys got this. I believe in you all. Okay, guys, thank you all for coming. I'll see a lot of you next week, Scully Army. I'll see all of you in class next week, of course. And thank you all for joining today. Alrighty, I will see you all later. Have a lovely, lovely, lovely rest of your day. Thank you for coming. I'll see you later. Bye, everyone.